Okay. Welcome, everyone, and those that continue to join. I am excited about this conversation. I've been excited about it. I've been talking about it. And the reason that I decided to do this is I have the privilege to be able to have these conversations with clients on a regular basis. But I also know that many people don't get to have these conversations, and we kind of have to struggle through stuff silently in many ways, or there's this fear of discussing things that are hard. Perception, what are people going to think? Will my employer think I'm weak? Whatever the case, right? And everybody struggles with mental health in work, mental health in life on a regular basis. So, being able to talk about it is really important. And a lot of great things come from it because A, we feel less alone in it. And B, we can learn from others in terms of how we're all navigating it. Um, and so, I would like to introduce you to our speakers, our panel speakers today. And I'm going to make sure I don't botch anything. So I'm going to read. Um, so, Kim Rosenfield, she is, you have yourself listed as, by the way, vice president still.
Sorry, haven't been.
She has since upgraded to president and financial advisor. She has built an amazing practice with her husband while navigating grief and the deeply personal challenge of stepping into her own leadership identity as she took over the business. And she has a lot to say about what confidence actually looks like when you're building it in real time. Dr. Kimberly Raleigh. I'm emphasizing that because it is new and also amazing in terms of the achievement. Um, is the Director of Alumni Relations, Communications in the Institute for Advanced Continuing Dental Education at U of D Mercy School of Dentistry, as well as a new role as Executive Director of Oral, what? Or
The Michigan Oral Health Coalition.
Michigan Oral Health Coalition. Two jobs, while also juggling a family. Kimberly knows what it looks like to keep showing up professionally while juggling the stress and overwhelm of a demanding career, a young family, and the pursuit of a doctorate all at the same time. She's lived the how do you do it all question from the inside. Alex Ellis, growth marketing expert, entrepreneur, Alex has navigated the intersection of grief and entrepreneurship, continuing to build and grow a business while carrying one of the hardest things a person can go through. Her perspective on what it takes to keep going without losing yourself in the process is one we want to talk about. And Susan Splan, professional banking relationship manager. Susan brings a perspective that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and that is what it looks like to navigate the pressures of a demanding career as you get older, wrestling with self-doubt, caring for an aging parent. Also, should I say the hormone bullshit of menopause on top of that,
Toast. Toast.
while taking
Toast.
care of herself. So she's figuring out how to hold it all without losing herself and willing to be honest about what that actually looks like. And I do think that it's important to bring in that piece too, right? Menopause, perimenopause, all of that stuff in this because it does contribute to how we all feel and what we're navigating. Did I miss anything? Okay. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to just pose some questions to our ladies. And then once we get through that, if anybody has comments or thoughts or their own perspective, I'd like to open it up. Okay. So to kick things off, what does juggling everything actually look like for you right now? Not the version that you would post about on social media, but what it looks like right now.
I think that's a really funny question because I know you mentioned grief for a number of people. I don't have kids, so I don't know what that is like. But I think for so many on the outside, like, how do you do it? And you're like, I don't know. I just put one foot in front of the other every day and continue to show up and continue to do what I need to do. I think that challenges allow you to reprioritize things, and decide, what do I actually want to do today? What do I have the capacity to do today? And what do I care about doing today? And actually, I was thinking about that in terms of social media, and business owners, right? And there's this pressure that you have to show up on social media every day, or like no one's going to know about you and your business isn't going to grow. And when my dad was sick and eventually died, I don't care about Instagram, but then also like, how do I, keep my business afloat? I don't know. So I think just figure out what's the one thing I can do today, put a foot in front of the other, and
Mhm.
then just keep stumbling forward, and you're going to eat it and just dust yourself off and get back up. Cause like, what other choice do we have?
Yeah. Yeah. And doing the best you can on that day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think, Alex, she made a really good point about what do I have the capacity for today? And going through something challenging, I think does help us refocus on that, trying to pull the positive out of a negative experience. What really matters? Where do I want to spend my time today? There's all kinds of things we could be doing, but to take that moment to step back and say, but what should I actually be doing? What's going to bring me joy and what's going to be the greatest benefit, to me, my business, my family. And it's a one day, one moment at a time kind of thought.
Hmm. I love that. Anybody else before we move on?
I think intentionality. I'm trying to be more intentional with my time, and that I feel like is how I've been showing up, or at least trying to show up. And then when I do something, I'm all in versus
Hmm.
trying to cram. Well, I cram, but but I trying to do it all at one time. I have not been successful at that. But if I kind of chunk things out and do one thing at
Hmm.
a time, then it's better for me.
Yeah.
Kelly, I'd like to add something.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Christy Monahan. I'm a clinical therapist. I was invited by Kimberly, actually. I'm going to have a very unpopular opinion here. Uh, I don't think we're juggling. I think we're on fire. And I
Mm.
think we're doing things that are the biggest, brightest fire in the room. And I have a very robust practice of women who are, they look at it as failing because they can't get all the things done. I think our plates are a certain size and we keep adding to them. So I think women are overall very successful, but I think we take on a lot of things that we should not be taking on. And what we really have to do is get better at saying no.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You beat me to it, Christy, because that's a question later on. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that's an important point, and I love that you contributed there. Thank you.
I'll just add that
Yeah.
it, like how my day looks sometimes depends on how tired I am. Okay, so like if I don't get enough sleep, the roof's on fire because I'm juggling a million things through work and taking care of mom and what priorities are there. So like today, I feel great. I made sure I got good sleep last night. So if I don't get good sleep, then my mind goes all over. So that's just
Mm-hmm.
for me, that does affect everything.
Yeah. It's
But
like
it's
the
work
one thing you can control too.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes the hormones don't let you control it. Can't turn the brain off. So
Good. Love it. Um, so the four of you for sure are all high achievers, and I imagine our guests are as well, which means you're really good at keeping it all together. But to I guess we'll just kind of add to this because Christy has already commented on it. But what is it costing you, right? As Christy said, everything's on fire, right? We're not creating boundaries. We're not, saying no. We're saying yes to everything. We're trying to do it all brilliantly and probably struggling with most of it. So what do you feel like it's costing you in relation to that?
I just
mm,
also just piggybacking off of what Christy said of like saying no to things as a high achiever. I always say recovering overachiever perfectionist because I haven't done it perfectly, so it's not done yet, Um, but the ability to say no was not even in my vocabulary
Mhm.
until like the worst thing could happen happened. Right. So my dad had throat cancer. He was sick for about 6 years before he ultimately passed at 71. It was young. We weren't expecting it at all. And so when I had literally nothing to give, it was a lot easier to say no. Anyone who has experienced grief, you can't remember anything, you can't sleep. I like literally had to say no because it was just like there was no other option. And as I started to kind of come back to myself and the new version and this new life that I have, realizing that, oh, yeah, you can say no. And you don't have to say yes to everything, whether that's work related and trying to finish, 9 tasks a day, or even like social events, that I realize how much I really enjoy just like rotting on the couch on a weekend and doing so guilt free. And I think there's still, and also too, for anyone listening, I think over the last, even, the pandemic is one. There's things where I'm like, I can't believe before the pandemic, I used to like, teach 7 yoga classes a day and then like go out at night and like do all this stuff. I'm like, who is that person? Because I could never do that now. And so there's a lot of, for me personally, like reflection and guilt, I think, that comes up when I, finish my work day and I go, wow, I can't believe I just only made some progress on this thing, when the version of me pre grief could have done this whole project in one sitting, and we just can't anymore. But allowing that to be enough for the day, is a constant, just, I want to say, like, awareness, and trying not to like judge that as well.
Mm. Yep.
I was going to say the same thing as she was talking about the guilt. I used to be the one who said yes to all the schools would ask for something. Yes, 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 I'll do it. I'll make the cookies. I'll do this. I'll make the packages. And at one point, I was overwhelmed. I was working 2 jobs and juggling the kids and doing all the things and trying to be everywhere. And that I realized that it's okay to say no, and it's okay to not feel guilty about it. And I think the thing was, someone asked me, well, what if you don't say yes? What's
Mhm.
going to happen if you don't say yes? Nothing. Nothing's going to happen. Somebody else will come. You don't have to be the one that says yes to everything, or, oh, not everybody signed up for the things on the checklist or whatever. Okay, I'll sign up for all of them because I don't want the kids to be like, well, what's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing is going to happen. Life is going to move on. Everything will be fine. And same thing in going through grief. If you died tomorrow, everybody's going to move on. We're going to be sad. Everybody's going to go through the process, but life will still go on. So those things will still be there, and it's not going to matter. So you have to learn to balance yourself too.
Mhm.
It's a really hard process. And
It is.
Alex, I responded to grief in the exact opposite way. I lost my mom and my sister, both to sudden heart attacks in about a 3-month span.
Mhm.
While I was going through taking over the business, inherited a brother with some pretty serious mental health issues. And so I thought, I've always been the one that held it all together. I've always been the one who does the things, and I have to keep being that person. And that's how I'm going to get through this. I'm going to keep saying yes. And it wasn't until, I mean, things got really dark. And I pride myself on being very positive and, enthusiastic and energetic. Um, but for me, it took like that breaking point when I realized, okay, I can't keep doing this, and this is hard, and I have to learn how to say no, and set some boundaries. And I think that's the big, not necessarily no, but set boundaries. And luckily, when I was going through all this, I was in Kelly's Ascend group, which is, for y'all who aren't familiar, it's a group of high achieving women who are, trying to figure out their leadership style, or, setting goals and trying to figure out how we're going to move forward in business. But at the same time, it was very, very personal. And so I had the opportunity to address some of that overachieving and kind of denial that I was in mourning, and that sort of stuff in a very supportive group. and really confront some of my behaviors that I thought were contributing to my success, but were absolutely wearing me down. So I think it's so important, whether Christy is a therapist or it's a group or something, a trusted group of friends, when you're going through something hard, to make sure you have a support system of some kind, especially if you want to make changes.
Yeah.
I'm probably if not the oldest, one of the oldest people here, and I'll be 56 in August. And I'm going to tell you that something happens when you hit 50. And what happens is you realize you're closer to this side than this side. And I too, to your point, Alex and Kim, I lost my dad in November. And so when you start to lose people and realize my time is limited, like I got a dog 2 years ago and I was like, oh shit, this potentially could be my last dog. Like you literally, something clicks in your head when you're like, wait, I'm going to a baby shower on a Sunday for 6 hours and I don't have a day off ever? No, I'm not doing this. So you start to reframe it in a way that kind of unhealthily your own mortality, but also I want to see 52 states, and I'm not going to see them all by going to a baby shower on a Sunday for 6 hours. So your time becomes extremely valuable. And that's the first, I think, step to, or your kids get older and they sort of move on and don't need you as much. And you have this bulk of time when you're like, well, now what do I do? And so it's those things that force us to take a look. Now, let's not forget, we're living in a society that thinks we can do it all, right? Welcome to it, ladies. You can have it all. Wait, I didn't ask for this. I don't want to cook
I don't want it
and
all.
clean and go to work and be your partner and be skinny. No, thank you. I'm out.
Yeah,
But
I'm pretty
that's
sure.
exactly the point,
Yeah.
is that we have all been told like this is amazing. We get to do it all. We can vote and we can work and we
Yeah.
can raise a family and da 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 da. And like, where's the time for us and how do we provide ourselves with that? And to Chrissy's point, I do think, when I had kids, I started to feel that way too, like you, Christy. And obviously, as we get older, we give less fucks. But I think we're constantly kind of faced with things that go like point us to that, where it's like, wait a minute. No, it is not. I don't want to spend my whole day doing this thing when I've given myself for the last 6 days.
Mhm.
But being able to do that, and the difference between acknowledging it and being able to actually set that boundary, again, circling back to that, is the challenge that I have found that women face quite a bit.
My wise therapist told me, and I have it written down on a post-it, and it's been the same spot. I just took it off to show you, but I'm putting it right back. That before I commit to anything, I ask myself three questions.
Mhm.
One, do I want this? Two, do I have the time? And three, do I have the resources?
Mm.
And my friends all know that I have like pretty profound ADHD. And so I'm like interested in everything and I want to do everything. And so like the answer for the first question is almost always like a resounding yes. But then wanting to do something doesn't necessarily mean that I have the capacity to do it, or at least not well. So that has been a huge shift for me, is learning that taking care of myself is not selfish, and that helps me to show up really better for everybody. But I look at that sticky note uh, probably 10 times a day, if not more. Time,
Mhm.
want, resources. Like, and so
Yeah.
if anybody sees it, like they don't know what it means, but now you do. Um, but
Mine
I
says,
absolutely love it, and it really changed my perspective on
my
so
assistant
many.
taped one. I can't get it off because it won't go back on, but it says, you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was
Mm.
Kelly who confronted me with, okay, if you say yes to this, what are you going to say no to?
Mm.
And so, you say yes to this baby shower, you're saying no to a Sunday, to relax. You say yes because, yeah, these opportunities sound great. And of course, I want to go to my friend's baby shower. Of course, I want to help on this committee. It's going to be so fun. But then what are you saying no to? Yep. So it's made me take a step back, and think about things before I just instantly respond.
The
Well,
other one that I've recently had people start asking themselves, and I'm doing it myself, is would I want to do this tomorrow?
Yeah.
Because we're really good at saying yes to things like 30 days out, whatever. Oh yeah, that sounds great. And then the day arrives or the night before arrives and you're like, why did I say yes to this? So facing it like in the moment, nope, I wouldn't want to do this tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, you first have to train yourself to ask. I I say yes or no to nothing. And I
Yeah.
say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. And then
Yes.
if I get home when I'm not in the moment and don't feel pressured, and I'm like, that sounds terrible, then it's automatically a no.
Hmm.
Right.
Um, and it's a practice. It's really hard to say no to people because we are such people pleasers as women. We want to make, yes, I want to, of course, I want the kids happy at Sunday school. And of course, I want them to have my favorite cake because I'm really good at making it. And of course, I want to show up for you, but we don't show up for ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
well, I think like to address Kelly's original question on like how do you actually say no? Like when we talk about saying no, and then like all the suggestions are really great, but then like I recently had to get out of a commitment, which I'm so grateful that I did now, but I had to do a lot of role playing, like Kelly knows in the group. So I mean, I think it's great that we can say in our heads we're going to say no, but you and it's a practice, but you have to like I have to practice how I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say it to multiple people, and I have to get for me like the reassurance that I am doing the right thing because I grew up Lutheran. My dad was Catholic, so I was raised by Catholic. Guilt like just overwhelms me sometimes. So I think it's like great that we can say no in theory, but like you have to deal with how do you feel when you actually have to do it. So I feel like you have to practice, like Christy said, practice it. But I mean, it's hard sometimes to say no,
Oh, it's always
Mm-hmm.
hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah. So I'm just saying like I struggle with that. Like I struggle back
Totally.
and forth. But once I said no, man, I was empowered.
It's
Mm-hmm.
very empowering, but I don't even think it's the word no. I think it's the letting go of people being okay with you saying no that is the
Yeah.
struggle for people. I train people, family, friends, patients to say no and then let it go because you're having the expectation that if I say no with this giant flowery explanation, they're going to be okay with it. They're not. They're not. They want you at their party. They want you to make them a cake. They're just not. And you're right, Susan. You have to get comfortable with it. That's the hardest part.
Yeah,
But
and
the
then
Yeah.
other
people will
thing,
try to talk you out of it too.
Yeah. Oh,
Like then you
Mm-hmm.
have to be prepared to to continue to say no.
yeah.
Not get, like my mom's always like, so you're gonna get talked back into it. I'm like, no, I'm not this time. And I didn't. So like that's why I'm saying the role playing. I don't mean like,
Mhm.
but I'm just saying like practice with a friend, practice
Yeah.
like your support group, like help me through, give me like I'm gonna try to talk you into it because it's hard. I mean, maybe it's not hard for everybody. It's hard for
No,
me.
it's hard.
No.
It's
Yeah.
definitely hard.
yeah.
I
I
think
think
something
also,
Alex said earlier was, what do you want to do today? And that changes for me day to day. I
Mhm.
feel like, one day I'll feel like I have this brand and I've got to continue that and make decisions based on how I'm feeling that day. But it's been really empowering for me to give myself permission to say maybe. I'm going to see how this week plays out. And then, I think in our culture, that's not as appreciated as in other, I think Europeans are really good at it. They're like, maybe I'll show up, maybe I'll see you there. I got to see how this week plays out. I don't know yet, and that's, I think that's really, we should normalize that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
And
gonna say too, of saying yes to something and then the day comes and then you may not want to do it. You can still say no. Like that is allowed. And I have done that a lot, which is something that I never, ever, ever, ever would have done before. And once you get over like the first 4 or 5 times, you're like, oh, the world didn't end. The sky
Mhm.
didn't fall. Like I'm still here. Okay. Okay. This is okay. Maybe next time we'll say, let me look at my calendar and get back to you before we commit to things that we don't want to do and get ourselves in this position again. The other thing I wanted to add is what Susan was talking about of like, kind of workshopping what you're actually going to say. This would be a great application for AI. Also, I've had so many conversations with ChatGPT about like, how do I tell my mother that I will not do this? And like going back and forth, because so often she's either the person I'm talking to about it, or also like, there's people in your life who are like, just don't get it. And not that ChatGPT or any of AI is a replacement for anything, but sometimes getting that first draft of what that conversation might look like and then workshopping it with, trusted friends, family therapists, etc. That always makes me feel a little bit more prepared to have what in my head feels like a big, hard conversation. And really, it doesn't need to be that big of a deal.
Kind of goes back to like it still says Kelly T. So what Floyd in the Brown Jacket was saying earlier, the world will go on, and people don't think about you as much as you think about you. So
No.
you think it's this really hard thing that you're saying no, and you're going to devastate them. You're really not that important, you know. So we have to take a step back. And yes, sometimes they're still going to try to talk us into it. Of course, they're going to be disappointed if we don't show up or can't do it or whatever. But the world really does go on. We are not that important.
And Misty, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but Misty and I had a conversation. It was a really good conversation a few weeks ago, and we were talking about like this very thing of saying no. And she's one of those people that if you ask her to do something, she actually does it, and she prepares for a meeting. Like she's really a superstar and girl crush, um but she had shared with me that she'd recently started saying no, and that she was thinking that people would give her pushback. And I guess I don't want to tell your story, but I I learned from it, and um that in instead of getting pushback, that it was really even more respect, because that when she shows up for something, it's going to be intentional.
I think that's the other point and that I always make with people is when we say no, we actually teach or give others permission to say no, right? Because
Mhm.
they're like, oh, okay, that's a possibility, right? I feel like in my own experience and even in my clients' experiences, when they say no, people just kind of move on. Like, okay, I respect that boundary. I had a conversation with a client a few weeks ago and he was talking to me about his business and he was trying to accommodate all of his clients and everything. And I was like coaching him around boundaries and saying no. And he comes back and he's like, Kelly, you wouldn't believe it. I started saying no. They're totally fine with it. I started saying not right now. Like I need 48 hours. They're fine with it. I was like, yeah, people are going to treat you the way you teach them to treat you, right? And we have to be better about setting those expectations. I was gonna kind of ask about our own, what's happening with all of this is we put ourselves at the very bottom of the priority list in doing this, right? That is the result. And then what happens, right? All of us have probably done it at some point in different ways. Maybe it's not by not saying no, but it can be for a number of other reasons. But then what happens?
You hit that wall, getting that
Mhm.
really, you're either exhausted or really, really sad or angry. My poor husband, he definitely got the worst of my moods because he's the safe one. So yeah, I mean, you can only keep it up for so long. At some point, you're gonna crash.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people that are close to you suffer, I think.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you know, take it out on my mom sometimes. I don't mean to.
I
Yeah.
think something else was said earlier. It might have been Christy that talked about like the big flowery explanation. I
Mhm.
think it's really important to avoid that as much as we can because it's not necessary and it takes away from your decision,
Yeah.
and it doesn't need to be rude. It doesn't, but you can really own your space and just say, I don't have the bandwidth for that this week. No, it's a
A
no,
man would never make it
and that's okay.
flowery. Like never. They
Hmm?
just would know. I said a man would never make it flowery. Like
Exactly.
I feel like as women we over explain. And
We're apologizing for
yeah,
wanting our own time that we're entitled to,
right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What is something you have figured out about taking care of yourself while also kind of working towards these big goals that you wish somebody maybe have told you sooner?
I think it goes back to Kimberly's post-it note. We've got to slow down and really think about the consequences of our choices, positive and negative. And we are the only ones who are going to take care of ourselves. So we have to be really, really thoughtful. But it's that slowing down. It's letting go a little bit of that people pleasing. Thinking that, we're going to let somebody down, we're going to hurt their feelings, and we got to turn it back to no one's going to take care of me like I'm going to take care of me. So I've got to slow down and really think through, any commitment, even if it was like this morning, my husband asked if I would stop on the way home and pick up some groceries because we just got back from a trip last night. And like, I really had to, of course I want to, but I'm like, well, you're retired. You're going to play golf. Like, no, you can go do you. But my initial response was going to be, yes, of course, because I want to take care of him and how, and it's for me anyway. Slow down, really think about the consequences and be okay taking care of yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, I think taking care of yourself is absolutely non-negotiable. And like to Susan's point about sleep, non-negotiable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then there's still things that are outside of our control, right? Whether that's hormones waking you up. I have a senior pet who can't sleep through the night anymore, whatever that might be. And another thing that's been really helpful is to take the judgment out of decisions. So I'm thinking specifically about sleep right now, knowing that my dog is going to wake up. She woke up at 5:30 this morning. It's going to be 6 a.m. Monday through Sunday. It doesn't matter. She doesn't know the days of the week. And so on the weekends, like this weekend, somehow it was 2 a.m. and I was going to bed and I was like, oh, that was really an interesting choice, and I could have like beat myself up about it because I was absolutely exhausted the next day. But I was like, you know what? I made a decision to stay up late and watch off campus, which I highly recommend. And it was a choice and I made it and I'm okay with that. It doesn't mean that I'm bad or stupid or, anything about that. It was a choice and we'll make a different choice next time. Moving on.
Mhm. That judgment of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves really doesn't number, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Anybody else on that one?
I think what was the question was like what lessons?
What is something you have figured out that you wish you had known earlier? I mean, you shared the post-it note thing. That seems to be super helpful for you.
Hmm. That I would say my other big thing is that um if I don't listen to my body, it will eventually demand the
Yeah.
rest that it keeps trying to negotiate away.
Mhm.
I have unfortunately just like a slew of autoimmune issues, and then I end up with lupus-induced migraines, and when I don't listen to my body, it can get pretty serious to the point where I can't fix it at home, and I end up in the hospital for 3, 5, 10 days at a time, and it's because I've pushed myself, and I have the warning signs and I know that I'm pushing through it, but yet I do it anyway. Because, I need to finish that one email or make sure that conference goes off without a glitch. And at the end of the day, like I need to take care of myself and the conference will happen. Somebody will step in and it's okay. And I think that it shows up, I end up overcommitting myself. I say yes too quickly. Um, and I need to rest instead. And I can't really be like physically present and then mentally somewhere else. I end up with the guilt. And then when I am working, I have guilt that I'm working. I have guilt that I'm not with my kids. And then when I'm resting, I have the guilt. And I think it's just like trying to become that intentionally focused is key. And then also just listening to my body. That is my biggest thing. It tells me all the time. I just need
Yep.
to pay attention to what it's saying.
Yep. You need another post-it note.
Right.
What's my body saying today?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love that you shared that because what I wanted to make sure we all kind of acknowledge is nobody's always getting this perfect, right? We are constantly navigating these things and trying to better ourselves in different ways or identify what works, doesn't work for us that might work for other people. And acknowledging like, oh, I should have maybe gone to bed earlier, like Alex said, that's on me. I did the thing, but here I am, right? And next time I'll think a little bit more about that or whatever.
Yeah, I'm putting that on a post-it, and I already did. Take judgment out of decisions. Thank you,
Mm,
Alex.
That's a good
By
one.
Alex Ellis.
Yeah, perfect. Love it.
I don't
Okay.
have
Oh,
Kimberly.
go ahead.
Sorry, Kelly. I don't
Yep.
have Kimberly's health issues, but I mean, how many times have you gone to an event and you find yourself standing there going, I fucking hate it here. Why did
Yeah.
I do this?
Uh-huh.
I was in a Zumba class and I'm like, I am the most uncoordinated. I don't even like this music. Why am I here? No, I'm not getting exercise. I'm not even, I can't even breathe here. No, I don't want to be here. And so when you go and do those things enough times that you're finally like, I'm going to quit saying yes to everything because I apparently don't like anything. So yeah, even to go to a party, like if you're not having a good time and people they see that, they feel it. Like you're disengaged, you're distant. Why did I come? You're unhappy, I'm unhappy. There's no reason to do it. So I think
Yep.
if you listen to yourself of how you feel about being in a space, then you know pretty quickly that this isn't for me and I don't need to do this again. Let me cross this off the list and not do it again.
hmm Yep. Constant check-ins with
Yeah.
ourselves. Maybe hourly would be good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one specific question for each of you, if you're good with that. Yeah. Okay. I saw your response, Kim, so I will not start with you. How about Kimberly? Are you good to go?
Sure.
Okay. You're obviously juggling a lot, a lot. Where does Kimberly fit into all of it? Not the version that sounds impressive, right? But who you?
Well, I would say I haven't always fit in. Um, or at least when I do, it's last. I tend to take care of other people and my obligations, work, schooling, um, deadlines, expectations. Um, and so I think from the outside, it might look impressive, but honestly, um, is that I'm just sometimes often squeezing myself into the margins of my own life. Um, and I've had a lot of loss and some trauma that surrounds that.
Mhm.
And I've learned that those things don't disappear because you're productive or high functioning. Um, and I had, this is like maybe TMI, but honestly, it was very profound for me. I learned last week in therapy, and it truly was like an aha, that one of the reasons that I do stay so busy, and I overachieve is because I have had a lot of loss. And that if I can overachieve, if I can keep doing more, keep saying yes, that I will somehow, people can't then live without me, so to speak, and or the organization can't live without me. And so um that really, I would say, was like incredibly eye-opening for me because it's true. And it it- it's not obviously healthy. And I guess the thought was is if I keep doing, then those people won't leave me like the ones that did before.
Mm,
And that way it's like I have a little bit of control over that when with most of my losses in life were rather traumatic and tragic and sudden. And it's tough. It's really
mhm,
tough. I mean, tomorrow is the 23rd anniversary of my fiance's passing. He died in a car accident a few weeks before our what was to be our wedding. And it's 23 years later, and I'm still traumatized by it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not, I think that, before I would overcompensate, but um it obviously, shows up on how I deal with everything and everybody and um in the patterns. I have a lot of patterns in life. Um and I think that to honor all of those, experiences, is to not let them like define who I am, and learning from them and then recognizing how it shows up in my body, and my stress response in my relationships, how I work, and then um, to do something every day that brings me joy. And I've heard this, but I guess I always thought that that was going to be something like profound, like even though a bath is not profound, but it takes time
Yeah.
because I'm a hygienist and we're a little neurotic, and I have to shower before I take a bath because otherwise you're, in your own cesspool. Like so like it's a whole process for me. So like, okay, like, well, that isn't going to happen every day, but like, what is something that is like achievable? And when I really broke it down, like, this is like the silliest, easiest thing, but my husband, every morning, it's just sort of like his thing. He brings me a cup of coffee.
Aw.
And I love that. And I've learned to like receive it just as like a moment of care
Yeah.
and gratitude. And because of my autoimmune issues, which I'm sure are totally related to the trauma, by the way, but they are hard for me physically. In the morning, I'm literally like frozen, and my body has to wake up. And so now I intentionally wake up and I spend that time. I enjoy my coffee. I take a pause, a reset. And then I like say to myself, like, today you matter in the day. Um, and it's like a great way it happens to just start my day, but it really is something that brings me like absolute joy. And every day of the week, this happens every day of the week. And I will get up so that I can enjoy it. And
Aw.
yeah, it's simple, and it's not silly, but it's like,
No.
it doesn't require a whole lot of money. It's
But I think
like,
that's like the point, right? I think we
yeah,
try to like make these elaborate things happen for ourselves when someone asks us, like, what are you doing for yourself? How do you say? But like that simple thing can make your day and set you on the right path, and it gives you the space that you need. Um,
yeah.
and you connect with your husband. I mean, so many things are happening in that moment.
Yeah, I guess really it goes back to like to the intentionality. Like I figured out that that was like what brings me joy, and so we make it happen, and
Mhm.
that's the thing. And so this morning I wanted to get up, and of course, because I knew I was going to be on Zoom, I wanted to do a face mask, and I was like, so I'm going to get up extra early. I did two face masks today, and but even then I was like, can you please set the timer, for the coffee? And he got out of bed while I, did my or like at 5 a.m. And it's sweet and it's kind, and it
Mhm.
when you do it with intention, I feel like it brings like an extra level of
Well, it's also you
joy.
allowing somebody to take care of you for one
Oh,
moment
that's
when you're the one
true.
who's doing it
Never
the whole
thought of that.
day,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is a big deal.
yeah, yeah,
So, yay, I love that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Alex, you shared a bit about this already. You lost your father while, running a business. What do you think made you keep going? And did it cost you anything?
Debt, yes. Excuse me. Yeah, so I was running also a membership at the time. So I literally had these clients that I felt beholden to, that I had to show up for them because they were paying me money, and I felt bad about that. But that money was also paying my bills, and I was in honestly a tremendous amount of debt from all the time that I had taken off. Because when my dad was first diagnosed, we decided to do road trips every year. So every summer for 3 weeks, we would drive across the country with our teardrop trailer and camp. And it was just amazing, and it allowed me to have a ton of really good memories with him. Um, and so like what made me keep going, I think, was just like, I mean, what other choice did I have? What I really struggled with was the like my identity in it all. Um, like I said, I now it feels weird. I feel like I'm in between, but working as a mobility coach for people with chronic pain and injuries and teaching them tools to help them help themselves. And it felt like when my dad died, like that chapter of me kind of ended as well. And so what do I do now? And I was waiting for someone to come save me, truly. I know I was trying to stay as productive and busy as possible to outrun my grief and any feelings that were coming up. I was trying to be overly productive to keep my mom from feeling anything, and realized very quickly that that wasn't a sustainable route to go either. And so I spent probably 9 months trying to apply for traditional work. Now, I've always been an entrepreneur. My first job out of college was working as a yoga teacher. And then I was working part-time here and there. And I started my business like 2 years out of college. Like I've never had a traditional 9 to 5. And I finally reached a point where I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. Now, many of you know, like the economy is garbage right now. That did not work out. And I realized, yeah, I was waiting for somebody else to come in and save me, and that wasn't going to happen. And that the debt truly was not going to go anywhere. That the like overwhelming sadness was also not going to go anywhere. And there was nothing I could do to escape that. So what could it look like instead? And so I pivoted into marketing because I had been helping other businesses along the way. I have a friend who graciously hired me to help her with her marketing in her legal software company. And that was kind of like an aha for me, like, oh, wait, all of this stuff that I have learned in my own business testing and trying, it is like marketing principles. They apply to other businesses. So what if I open this up to other people as well? And it just kind of snowballed from there. I will say, as I'm like continuing to build a business and still having one foot in both, I think the biggest kind of challenge that my therapist and I are talking about all the time is identity. Right? Like, who am I now? And how do I don't even want to say let go or walk away from, because like there's a skeleton in my corner that's not literally, like I'm not going anywhere. But like, who is this new version? Who is a version of me that like my dad doesn't know, and like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And how do you do it? I don't know. I think
One day at a time.
exactly. Yeah. One moment at a time, one decision at a time, and being okay with the like griefy days, where you're like, oh, I'm just not doing anything today. Okay. Okay. And that's okay. Like Kelly, you mentioned like your client realizing you could tell people 48 hours and it would be fine. The level of output I used to do for myself was insane. Like I would build a whole web page, new offer, landing page, Facebook ad copy, like in a day. And I can't do that anymore. Nobody expects that.
No.
Like at
No.
all. And so it's okay to just continue to, I think, communicate with people, check in with people, let them know what's happening, and be okay with like where things are at today, and like one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, just keep moving forward. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
It's so helpful to this entire conversation of just, this is the other thing I wanted to mention that has been super instrumental is community. And I know that you have a group that forms that community. In a weird twist of events, my neighbor up the street, we grew up together. Her dad died about 6 weeks after mine. And we had gone to elementary, middle, high school together, had kind of separated after I went to college. I texted her right away and I was like, we need to meet up. And so we formed what I call the Dead Dad Club. And actually, my husband's uncle passed and his cousin is the same age. So all of us are, in our late 30s. And we meet every month for brunch. And it's just so helpful to be able to sit across from somebody and they're like, how are you? And you're like, horrible. Thank you for asking.
You can be honest because they're
And
feeling it too.
fully
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
You
And
don't have to be polite.
not have to be polite, not have to mask, not have to like hide anything. And like, Christy mentioned going to a party. I'm just like, oh, what a nightmare. You're like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, no, I'm not fine. I'm not fine at all. But forming community has been such a lifesaver. And I like anyone I speak to, I'm just like, do you have people you're talking to? And like, you need that to take it a day at a time for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Susan, you are also navigating a demanding career while caring for your mom and have a fair amount of self-doubt as you kind of get older, stay in your role, like all the things. What does a really hard week look like for you and how do you navigate it?
I really thought about this, and like a hard week is when everybody wants something from me. Like, I mean, I have a bunch of events that I need to attend for marketing to maintain my visibility to bring in clients. I have a book of business. I have clients that are very demanding service and all that. So work is very demanding. I did take a couple things off my plate recently, so that's going to help. But then throw in, I have to take my mom to a couple doctor's appointments. And, she'll say, I can drive, I can take myself. But the problem is she doesn't listen in the appointments. Like I have to go to hear test results. I have to go to hear what's, what's going on, right? Because there's been a couple times when I said, okay, I'll let you go. And then something came up and she didn't tell. So it just created more chaos. So, and I live in a geriatric household. I've got an almost 85-year-old mom. I have a 16 and 8-month-old cat. I have a 13-year-old cat. So everybody's geriatric, right? And my old guy, we kind of figure we're coming close to I don't know, maybe he'll surprise us and live another couple of years. But so it's like when there's always everybody's trying to get something from me. And I'm trying to like make sure I meet everybody's expectations. And so that's when, and I don't know if, I think a lot has changed for me in the last probably 5 years or so, but just, it's not so much the self-doubt that I can't do the job. Is there enough of me to go around? So when I feel like I can't, like yesterday was an example, like I just kept getting hit and hit and hit. And I was like, I just don't have enough time today to do everything. Sometimes I mentally freeze, like what? I'll look at Instagram because I could do that right now, But so it's not that I can't do the job or I'm not capable. It's that, do I have enough time? So then it's back to, I think Kimberly said, setting that priorities, like what are the top priorities for today that I can get done? Who's screaming at me the loudest that if I don't take care of them on the client side, and then fitting in taking mom to the doctor or, I just give an example, like she has to get cataract surgery and I took her to the doctor like a month ago. And then they put a card in when they get cataracts, either they do it first thing in the morning and then you have to take them back in the afternoon for a check. Or if they do the surgery in the afternoon, you take them back the next morning, right? And so she has a card that says 2:45. Well, my surgery's at 2:45, and I was like, no, that's your follow-up, and she's like, no, it's not, and I was like, Mom, and like I'm glad like if I didn't go to that initial appointment, so that's what I'm saying. Like, so I think the self-doubt is, it's can I show up? Can I get everything done? So that overwhelming feeling. And when I don't meet the expectations, I always try to meet the expectations of my mom because, you know, she matters. But if I don't meet the expectations of my clients, they'll yell at me or they'll be upset. But then I just have to, okay, how can I fix it? So,
Yeah.
you know, there's that fear of failure. And as an aging worker, I mean, luckily I don't look my age and I feel like I have really good energy. So I don't, but I am the older person on the team. So the self-doubt sort of creeps in, and the fact that I feel like I have to show up even more. I have to be even more on top of it because I am, I've got maybe 7 years left in my career. So, they're hiring younger people that have attitudes, like, and like don't seem to respect that I have all of this experience. And I think that's where the self-doubt or the questioning internally, I end up with more pushback. That when I go out and with my clients, I'm well respected. It's just I work for a millennial and a late millennial. So sometimes I think they don't appreciate the experience that I have and what I have to offer. So that's where the self-doubt creeps in. And then I have to find myself like, wait a minute, what the I do know what I'm talking about. Like, pipe down, Pipspeak.
Yep. I've been
So
around a lot longer than you.
It's that balance, right? Like,
Yeah.
so that's really what it is. And kind of down to like with maybe the grief that Alex has gone through, and even Kim, remembering that, like, I do remember, like, she's 85 and Bannett's 16 and 8 months. So sometimes I am getting better at saying no to certain things, like taking things off my plate, because I really need to take the time to be with these my mom and them, this lovely creature that's been a part of my life for so long, because I don't want to look back and say I worked too much and I didn't take the time with them.
Yeah.
I am also sole support for the family. So that adds another layer. I mean, I don't have children. Okay. So that I don't have that burden. And I guess I didn't mean it burden. Maybe they're sometimes burdens, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, they are.
But I have to, I'm planning for my own retirement. I make my own house payment. Like, I don't have that second income. And, sometimes that second income, like I had an ex that didn't really help. So, but so there's a lot of pressure there, but sometimes I just have to sit back and, like, it'll all happen. And the saying no, like last night, like I had a board meeting and then I just had a million things to do. I was like, I'm tired, and protecting my sleep. Like, I got to be in bed by 9, and it's 8:30. So I'm going home.
Good. Yep.
So.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. I know we're running up against time. Kim, you touched on this a bit already around showing up confidently when you're also carrying some heavy stuff. Can you speak to that anymore? I feel like you did a bit already.
Yeah, that year was a really hard year. There was a lot of death. My sister, my uncle, my mom, my best friend, all in the span of a few months. And then taking on my brother, and that was the hardest part, I think, with his mental health issues. But still expected to be in the office every day and lead this team, and, Susan, high demanding clients, and, still really wanting to focus on my business growth. Like, I couldn't just let that go. I've worked a long time on this career. But that, and, Alex touched on it. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes I was running a little too fast. And so, that when I hit that wall, it was in a lot of ways a blessing, because I had to take a step back and really own the fact. Ask for help. That was a big thing that we worked through. But just admit, I can't keep doing this. So something has to change. And all the realization we talked about, the world didn't end. My business is doing really well. Like, I didn't have to be the perfect daughter, the perfect wife, the perfect, I was allowed to be flawed, be authentic, and work through it in a way that I could really, I had to take care of myself, put my own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
It was a hard lesson to learn. But when I look back, now, or I look where I am right now, and thinking of, that work that I put into it and what I learned from it, I'm not grateful for the experience, but I'm grateful that I had support around me, and I'm grateful that I did own it and address it, so that I can be in a much better place today.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I know that we're stretching time here. Does anybody have any other thoughts or comments or things we didn't touch on that you want to make sure we circle back to? That didn't make sense. Things we talked about that you want to circle back to, or things we didn't touch on.
Well, I just want to say that it's really empowering to like that you put this on today, because like just hearing from all of these lovely ladies, like realizing that we're all at different stages in our lives and where we've been. And it's
Mhm.
great, like we're not in this alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so important, right? Which is going back to support, having people in our lives that we can talk to, whether it's a group, a therapist, friends, is huge and makes it much easier to navigate. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, for participating. Thank you to the four of you for sharing your own stories. I did record this, so I will share it with you. And if you have any other additional thoughts or comments, please let me know.
Thank you for
Thank
putting this
you.
together.
Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye.